Good afternoon. I'm very honored to be here, that I was invited to speak at your conference here. And really, congratulations to the organizers of the conference. It's really a great event. There's so much knowledge here in that room. I'm really deeply impressed. Thank you very much for inviting me for that. Now, this is me. I'm the CEO of the IAA Austria since 2017. Before that, I specialized in data analysis for internal audit departments, for external auditors, and also for national audit offices. And I had a couple of other jobs before that. Now, as we're approaching the weekend already, I would like to take you on a quick journey to Florida, to Orlando. Why? Because this is the headquarters of the Global Institute of Internal Auditors. And I'm talking here about the strategy, the update of the strategy of the global IIA, and also an update on what is going on with the IPPF. I hope everybody is aware of what the IPPF is here in the room. I guess so, right? Okay. Just to be clear about that, I'm not a representative of the global IIA. I'm just the CEO of a national institute, like the Institute of Internal Auditors. Latvia is also a similar institute, right? But I would like to present to you some ideas about the strategy as far as we as national institutes are confronted with that. So this is the strategy of the global IIA. I think it's very impressive. Now, there are 6 topics on top. Reimagine and transform our organization. You see, I have the new logo already here on my jacket. That's part of the rebranding, but it's not the only part. So you know that we have the global IIA has developed a complete new web presence. Some of you who have to upload their CPEs, they are already confronted with the new CCMS system. Everybody likes it, I guess. Yes? No? No reaction? Okay. But it's getting better. I would say it's getting better. After 2 years, we are quite happy with that. Now, this reimagination of the organization is due to the two different facts. First of all, there was a change in the top management of the global IIA. I think many of you heard about Richard Chambers, who was leading the global IIA for, I think, 10 or 15 years. And he retired in the year 21. So that is one reason why there's a new person in place now. It's Anthony Pugliese. Maybe many of you heard about him already. But also there was a big game changer, and that was the pandemic. So that changed everything. Unexpected in a certain way. We were talking so much about risk management during this conference. Which risk manager really was thinking about that the pandemic would ever arrive? When I was talking to risk managers said, yes, well, pandemic, that's a risk. We had it on our radar. But we expected it to have a very, very low probability that it will ever happen. Now it happened. We're still confronted with that. So this was another game changer. And I'm coming to that in a second. The second topic here is promote competency and learning. Is the way how we teach our auditors up to date? How we do that? We do that in classroom trainings. We do this in webinars. We do that in conferences. But other methods already available. So one of the big trends in training, generally, also in business circumstances, is gamification. In Europe, there were, so far as I know, 2 different initiatives, gamified learning for internal auditors. I'm not very happy with them. They could be improved. But at least there is a starting point, right? So this is something that we should consider how we do that. And I'm coming then back to another topic that is knowledge sharing. And the training is also knowledge sharing, of course. How do we do that today? Grow membership and models. That's the green part in the middle. Why would we like to grow? Because we want to be more relevant than we are at the moment, all over the world. Not only in your country, not only in Austria, globally. And the new models should enable the entire community of internal auditors around the world to better cooperate. Well, so I think that's clear. Then advocate for public interests of the profession. I think that's very clear. We want to be relevant. We want to be heard. We want to have, as Richard Chambers pointed out in one of his books, we want to have a seat at the table. Evolve and heighten brand awareness. Okay, we're talking already about this here. And enable the profession for the future. Where is internal audit going to? We learned about today, we don't just complete checklists. We do performance audits, for instance, yeah? But where are we going to in the future? What are trends and what are tools that we're going to use in the future? So for instance, I'm specialized in data analytics already in the year 2002. And since then, I constantly heard we have to do more in data analytics. And I still hear that. So how did we evolve our profession if this is still a lack of knowledge and a lack of skills? But there are more tools to come. Robotics, artificial intelligence, right? I'm not going to ask you how many of your internal audit departments are using artificial intelligence tools. I presume that there are not too many. The next slide is something that I'm going to skip. On this slide, I just would like to emphasize the green button in the middle. The Global IIA is aiming to be a truly global organization. And it's good that the Global IIA is emphasizing that because the Global IIA, or the IIA in general, was founded in the year 1941. So that's already 81 years ago. And it was founded in the United States. And it was rolled out all over the world in the meantime. And we have, I think, 180 national institutes worldwide in the meantime. So that's very impressive. But still, 40% of the members of the Global IIA are US citizens. Europe is, I think, approximately 30%. And the rising star is which country? What do you believe?
India.
China. Are there any CIAs here in the room? Certified internal auditors? Okay. This is a global exam that can be taken in the same matter, in the same method all over the world. And you can take that exam in different languages. You can take it in English, of course. You can have it in French, in Spanish, not in Latvian, unfortunately. But most of the candidates, and you can take it in Chinese, meanwhile, in 2 different Chinese versions. And meanwhile, there are more Chinese candidates to that exam than in the United States. So that gives us also impression how the world is shifting to. So truly, global organization, that is an aim. That is an aim, it's very important. Why should the Global IIA be a global organization? To advance the profession worldwide. I mean, there are so many multinational and international companies and organizations, and they should act based on the same standards that are developed by our Global IIA. Meet the member expectation. Member expectation can be individuals, but also can be enterprises. And they have different expectations, of course. But if you move, for instance, from one country to another country, you would like to use the same standards. If you want to expand your business from one continent to another continent, it's good for you if you can use, for internal audit purposes, the same standards. And the slogan in the global IIA at the moment is, the big slogan is, one IIA. I love that, because whenever companies merge, they say we are one company now. You probably know that. The global operating model is something very important. How do national institutes cooperate with the global IIA? How do national institutes cooperate between them, right? So how can IIA Latvia can cooperate with IIA Austria? In which ways can that be done? And this should be defined in the global operating model. Several times the global IIA tried to establish such a global operating model, and it always failed. Why did it fail? Because we have different expectations in the US, in Europe, in Africa, in South America, in China, in Asia. So therefore, there's a new approach how to launch such a global operating model, and this is, it will happen by continent. So there's one project now underway to find something for Europe, and similar projects will be created or are already started for the other continents. So the phase one that was research, that is already done. The second phase is now starting. Right now, it's a pilot. So not everything that shall be defined and clarified within a global operating model can be created immediately. So therefore, there are just a couple of pilot projects, and one of those pilot projects is knowledge sharing. There's so much knowledge here in the room. How can we share that? So this is very important. Well, if that is done, then I'm skipping that, and this as well. When this is done, then and it's successful, then those projects will be rolled out to other regions globally. And here's just a list of different projects that could be included in this project. I'm not going that through. I mean, could talk to all of them for hours, but I think that might be too long for today. And yeah, that's the model. So if something is successful, then it will roll out globally. Now, the second topic that I would like to cover here in short is the evolution of the IPPF project. The IPPF stands for International Professional Practice Framework. And there were some criticisms about the existing framework. So it's too complicated. It's sometimes inconsistent. It does not include emerging areas, like I mentioned before, like artificial intelligence. The standards don't say anything about artificial intelligence or robotic process automation or things like that. So it's not up to date anymore. And it's not really applicable for all industries. So there is one standard for all, but in public sector, you might have different needs than in other sectors. And that is currently not covered. So there's one standard or one IPPF for all sectors at the moment. But what I showed you here is a survey that was done by the Global Institute in the Global Assembly in the year 2021. So therefore, there was the decision-taking to evolve the IPPF. It's not the objective to create something pretty new, because our standards, they are proven, they are good, they have value, and they help us to do our job. So the goals are ensure conformance, so that means that all audit departments all over the world follow the same standards, which would lead to the fact that the quality will increase. And what is very important, I think we heard it very often during the conference today, we have and we want to deliver value to our organizations. That's the reason why we exist. We want to deliver value, and once we do that, we want to be recognized as an important part of our organizations. So the project started in December 21. Currently, the contents of the current standards are revised. And then in 23, consultation will start. And now I'm coming to the structure of the IPPF, or the new IPPF. To be very honest, I only know the headlines. I don't know any details about that, because there are a lot of, not a lot, but some committees around the world working on creating the new IPPF. And the overall structure will be, there will be standards and there will be guidance. Standards means that is mandatory, and guidance is something that is just recommended. Probably the most important picture of the new IPPF is this one here. On the left side, you see the current way how that is described. So we have a mission around, we have the core principles, we have the code of ethics, and so on and so forth. We have the implementation guidance and the supplemental guidance. So what is in the blue area, that is mandatory current, and what is down here in the gray area, that is just a recommendation. Now the new IPPF will be structured in a different way. So you see the black line here. The black line means everything that is above the black line will be mandatory. Everything that will be below the black line is recommended, so standards, guidance. You remember the previous slide, black the standards, green the guidance. Now the structure is that in the below the standards, there will be 5 principles. It's a naming convention. Don't ask me why it's called like that, but this is how that will be structured in the future. So we have the elements of definition and mission. So why does internal audit exist? What is the purpose of internal audit, and so on and so forth. Then I pressed the wrong button. The next one is elements of code of ethics and standards. This is an enhanced version of the code of ethics, and so on and so forth. On the next slide, and this is probably one of the last that I'm going to show you, so don't get nervous. You find here only 4 principles, and I told you about 5 principles. So the first principle, the overall principle, is the mission and the vision. That is not described here. What we see here is there's one principle, ethics and professionalism. You know the first 4 of them, probably. I hope so you know them. It's integrity, objectivity, confidentiality, and competency. And what is new in this ethics and professionalism is due professional care. I'm going into that on the next slide. And then governing the audit function, managing the audit function, and performing internal audit. So these are the 5 principles. And one that I would like to explain to you, what is new about these principles of ethics and professionalism. This one is new in that area. And you see the standards, the relevant standards that are becoming part of that principle. So the addition is, so you see standard 1100, standard 1200, 1220, and something from the implementation guides for code of ethics that is new in this regard. And I think I'm going to skip the last slides. The next slide, and this is the very last slide, I promise. The project plan. Where do we stand at the moment? What are the next steps? What can you expect here? So currently, those committees are working on the contents what is in the silo of principles, which standards belong where to, so they're shifting some of the standards from one area into another area probably. And also there will be new elements, as I mentioned that before, what is regarding technology, new tools, new methods, and so on and so forth that will be added. So you see a couple of green check marks here already. And this process will be finished by the end of this year, officially. That's what we hear. So at the end of the year, the whole framework will be finalized, but it will not be published. Why? Because it will be translated into the major languages. And then, probably in the second quarter 23, the new IPPF will be distributed for consulting and for feedback to all the national institutes. So IIA Latvia will have the possibility and will be asked to give feedback what they like about the new structure, what they don't like, and so on and so forth. This is a process ongoing until the end of 23. And end of 23, beginning of 24, the whole thing should be finalized and shall be published and set into force in 24. So this is the goal. And we are all called to help the global IIA to get the thing done. So when you will be asked in the second quarter, give your feedback. It's absolutely necessary. Also from a European perspective. Otherwise, maybe it might be too US-centric again. So that's all what I wanted to share with you. Thank you for your audience. Thank you again. And